Hello friends, get ready because this recap is about to hit you like a war drum. 4 coastal kingdoms, Maui, Ohio, Oahu, and Kauai, lie chained to endless battles. Yet they cling to one prophecy: a single warrior will rise and unite them before the islands destroy themselves. But when Kiana returns to Maui after choosing peace, the king drags him back into a plan that sounds noble on the surface and deadly underneath. Kiana is no ordinary fighter. This man wrestles a shark like it's nothing and walks through spear attacks like the spears don't exist. The real shock begins when the prophecy is used as an excuse for betrayal, massacre, and a war that crosses every line. And just when Kiana realizes the truth, he's hunted like an animal, forced to trust a stranger with a secret weapon, and thrown into a fate he never asked for. So let's start, friends. The story opens on 4 coastal kingdoms: Maui, Ohio, Oahu, and Kauai. Each one sits along the shoreline like its own little world, with its own chief, warriors, traditions, and pride. For generations, they've lived like bitter rivals, fighting over borders, fishing water, trade routes, and old grudges that nobody even remembers clearly anymore. Yet all 4 cling to the same prophecy, the same whispered promise passed from elder to child. One day, a single leader will rise, unite the islands, and end the endless war so everyone can finally breathe. And honestly, after so many battles, that prophecy is the only thing keeping people hopeful. From there, we cut to a canoe slicing through open water, rocking over the wave. Leading the crew is Kiana, a fearless, hard-edged warrior who looks danger in the eye and doesn't blink. He's brave, bold, and so confident that his men follow him without question. A shark circles the boat, drawn by movement and scent, and Kiana doesn't hesitate. He dives straight in. He lassos the shark with a rope like a cowboy, grips its back, and shoves dirt into its gills so it can't draw air. The shark thrashes, the water churns, but Kiana stays locked in like a machine. Moments later, he drags it in as casually as if he'd caught a small fish in a calm lake, dear viewer. That's the kind of guy we're dealing with. They haul the catch home, butcher it, and share it with their village like it's just another day. Inside Kiana's house, a few kids are playing, laughing, and running around when they stumble onto his old war robe, the kind only Maui's elite fighters wear. It's heavy, decorated, and built for battle. One boy looks at it and can't help asking the obvious question: why would someone with that status ever walk away? Kiana answers without sugarcoating. He's tired of war. He left Maui because he wanted a quiet life, a fresh start, and a chance at peace. He didn't want to spend the rest of his days spilling blood for king. Then Kiana's wife, Kapoi, steps in with a playful grin. She says she's noticed how gentle he is with children and how the kids naturally trust him. She brings up starting a family and makes it clear she's dead serious, approval or not. She even jokes that she's not waiting for permission because she's already decided. It's obvious she's been dreaming of a baby with him for a long time, and she wants their home to be filled with their own. Before Kiana can even respond, envoys from the Kingdom of Maui arrive with an urgent message from Their posture is formal, their tone sharp. They tell Kiana the king wants him immediately, and they remind him he's been gone for 3 seasons, more than long enough. Kiana answers coldly. He'll return only because the king called, but they shouldn't expect him to rejoin anybody's war or wear anybody's chains again. Kiana gathers his people and his family and travels back to Maui. The moment they reach the gates, the king's son, Kili, is already waiting like he's been counting the minutes. Kili practically glows when he sees Kiana. He treats him like an older brother and a living legend. He talks fast, almost giddy, and brings up the old days when Kiana commanded the army, and no kingdom could stand against Maui's power. Kiana shuts it down fast. He warns Kili not to get ideas. He has no intention of returning to the battlefield. He's free now. He's building a life, and he plans to stay that way no matter who misses his glory days. On the road to the palace, they pass the training grounds where Maui's soldiers drill non-stop. Spears fly, shields clash, feet stomp, and the whole place smells like sweat and sand. One spearman stands out, landing throws so precise it feels like he could pin a fly to a wall and not move. The king's advisor, who secretly despises Kiana, puts on a fake smile and suggests a friendly challenge, hoping to embarrass him in front of everyone and remind the crowd that Kiana is old news. Kiana accepts without flinching, like the request is nothing. The spearman fires spear after spear, but none touch him. Kiana catches some with his bare hand, slams them into the ground while sprinting forward, then reaches the man, snaps both his arms, and carves brutal slashes across his back. It's vicious, fast, and terrifying. The entire yard goes. After that, Kiana walks away like it was just light exercise and heads to greet the king as if nothing happened. King Kahakili welcomes him with respect and greets Kiana's companion, Nahi and Nam, as well. The king's smile is measured, but his eyes show he's relieved to see Kiana again. Kiana sits with the king and asks straight out why he was summoned. Kahakili says the city needs defending, and the tone tells us it's not a small Kiana immediately refuses and starts to leave because he didn't come back to be dragged into politics. But the king stops him with a heavy warning. The prophecy, he says, has begun to move, and Kahakili believes Kiana is the one destined to unite all four. His reasoning is simple. Kiana is unmatched in war, yet he hates, and people love him, truly love him. That combination makes him powerful in a way no crown can. Then the king adds another concern. Rumors say Oahu is preparing an attack, and the situation is bigger than personal freedom. Kiana scoffs. Oahu's young king isn't a warlord. He's barely grown into the role. Kahakili replies that the threat isn't the young king, it's Oahu's high priest, a man filled with hatred who wants Maui erased from the map. The king asks Kiana to help, not as a soldier begging for orders, but as a leader asking another leader to save lives. Kiana says he'll think about it, because that's all he's willing to promise, and then he walks away. Back with his group, Kiana repeats the king's words and admits he doesn't fully believe any of it. Prophecies can be used to control people. Still, the others, especially Kapoi, are drawn to the idea that Kiana might be chosen. To them, it sounds like a purpose bigger than one man's fear. Kiana tries to stay logical, turning it over in his head, weighing what's real and what's manipulation. The next morning, Kahakili visits Kiana personally and takes him for a walk. He speaks quietly, almost like a friend. He says war is coming no matter what, and it might be the war that forces unity, whether anyone likes it or not. He insists Kiana belongs in it because he's the greatest leader alive. Then the king leads him to a small hut and tells him what's inside, the remains of Kiana's father. Kahakili explains that Oahu's high priest trying to steal and desecrate the remains, using them as an insult and a weapon, but Maui recovered them. Now the king offers them back so Kiana can give his father proper right. The gesture hits Kiana hard because it's personal, not political. He carries the remains to people, and in a raw, emotional moment, he places them into the fire. The flames rise, the smoke curls, and everyone mourns as if the death happened all over again. For Kiana, it's like an old wound is ripped open, and the grief comes rushing out. That night passes, and the next day Kiana stands on the shore alone, staring at the horizon, when a prophetess named Tala approaches. Tala is known for glimpses of the future, never the whole picture, but enough to shake you. People fear her and respect her because she rarely appears without reason. Kiana asks her for guidance. Should he join the war or walk away? Tala answers with a riddle. Hold your father's hand. Kiana stares at her, confused. He tells her he burned his father yesterday. There are no hands to hold. Tala only says he'll understand soon, then vanishes like mist, leaving Kiana frustrated and settled. Kiana returns, still thinking about it, and tells Kapoi what Tala said. He admits he can't make sense of it. Kapoi thinks for a moment, then her face changes as she realizes something. Warriors from Maui had just delivered an old weapon that once belonged to Kiana's father. Kapoi presses it into Kiana's hands and says, if his father always held this, then holding it now is like holding his father. It's a sign to step into his place and into the war. The idea spins Kiana's thoughts in circles. He hates the battlefield, but he hates betrayal and slaughter even more. Finally, he agrees. He puts on his war robe again and that strange, intimidating helmet that makes him look like a demon out of legend. Then he meets King Kahakili and lays out a plan with cold precision. Kiana tells the king to march the army to Ohio's shores, but not attack, just hold the line. The move will force Oahu to deploy troops to defend Ohio. While their forces shift, Kiana will slip in from the east, reach the temple, seize the high priest, and crush him before he can fuel more hatred. Then he'll secure Oahu's young king, and only then can Maui enter the city. Kahakili nods, impressed, and orders the march. To Kiana, it sounds like a clean strike that avoids unnecessary. Kiana's crew prepares to depart. They say goodbye to Hiki, who isn't a warrior and must stay behind in Maui, because this mission is supposed to be fast, brutal. The rest go with Kiana, including Kapoi, because she fights too and refuses to stay behind. Kiana enters Oahu from the eastern side and finds fighters waiting in the brush. They try to stop him, but he tears through them with terrifying speed. Blades flash, bodies drop, and his people move like shadows behind him. In the middle of the chaos, he spots Tala again, this time dressed in black, her eyes dark, her face full of fear and grief, like she's witnessing something she never wanted. Then she disappears. Kiana feels stomach tight. Something is wrong. He warns his people to stay sharp and watch every angle. They push forward and run into another group, blocking the route. But these aren't soldiers, they're farmers, trembling and unarmed, protecting their families, and Kiana refuses to hurt them. He tells them to move aside, promises he isn't here for civilians. At that exact moment, Maui's war horn sounds the command attack. Kiana's blood runs cold. He told Kahakili to hold. The king ignored him. Kahakili storms into Oahu and begins slaughtering anyone in his path. Old, young, innocent, it doesn't matter. The city turns into chaos, screams echo, and the streets fill with smoke and panic. Kili watches, stunned, realizing his father hid his true intentions even from him. The king forces his way into the temple, kills everyone inside, and sets it ablaze like he's burning history itself. By the time Kiana arrives, the massacre is already complete. Kiana is shaken by the bodies everywhere. Then he sees Kahakili holding Oahu's young king and executing him without mercy. Like the boy is nothing more than a trophy. Kiana confronts furious, saying this was never the agreement. Kahakili admits it. He's not waiting for prophecy, he's making it happen. He plans to invade all kingdoms, bring them under his name, and claim peace will follow once everyone is forced to submit. Kiana can't stand it. He turns his back on the king, disgusted. Kili runs after him, swearing he didn't know his father's plan. Kiana tells him it doesn't matter. The blood is on Kahakili's hand, and on everyone who helped, including Kili. Then Kiana walks away, carrying guilt like a weight on his shoulders. After that, Kili orders the advisor to watch Kiana closely and report anything suspicious. No independent move, just eyes. The advisor smiles, because he's been waiting for a chance to get rid of Kiana. Now we cut back to Maui. Deep in a hidden cave place no one visits, there lives a young woman, Kahu. Her mother is Kahakili's sister, but the king doesn't even know Kahumanu exists, because her existence is political poison. She is the daughter of the former chief of Ohio, now dead, replaced by a new ruler, and that bloodline makes her both valuable and dangerous. The man who raised Kahumanu tells her what Kahakili did in Oahu. Her secret is now dangerous, and she must be moved to Ohio before Maui's enemies discover her. Worse, he intends to marry her to Ohio's new chief, Maui's sworn enemy, to secure protection and alliances. Kahumanu refuses the idea, furious at being treated like a bargaining chip. She storms out, sits by herself, and tries not to scream. Back in Oahu, Kili confronts his father. He demands to know why he wasn't. He calls the slaughter wrong and warns that the other kingdoms will unite against Maui now. Kahakili dismisses him, repeating that he has a plan, and that fear is for weaker men. Then he orders Kili to send 2 men to bring Kiana for a talk, because Kiana is now both a threat and a tool. The 2 soldiers find Kiana and escort him away from his group. But when Kahakili arrives at the meeting, Kiana is gone, and the 2 men lie dead. The king rages, insisting Kiana must be captured alive for some ritual purpose, as if the prophecy requires. His anger is wild, and his advisor quietly feeds it. But Kiana has already taken a canoe, gathered his people, and fled back toward Maui. The royal advisor, also the king's brother, predicts the escape and launches boats after them without wasting a second. Kiana's group paddles hard. In the distance, they hear a strange ringing sound. They ask what it is. Kiana admits he has no idea. None of them has heard a bell before. They keep moving, muscles burning, palms raw from rowing, until they finally reach Maui. They call for Hiki on shore, but she doesn't answer, and that sends fear through the group. Kiana tells his crew to search for her while he draws the pursuers away. As he moves through the tree, one of the king's men appears. Kiana drops him but the dying man screams, alerting the rest. They chase Kiana, and then he vanishes, seeming to melt into the land. The hunters split into 2 groups to set an ambush, thinking they can corner him like an animal. Meanwhile, boats approach Maui's shore carrying a band of merchants. They've come from a large ship, the source of the bell. They're starving and desperate for fruit. Their captain warns them to keep their rifles ready but avoid conflict with locals. He says they don't want to end up like Captain Jack, a name that hangs in the air like a curse. Back in the cave, Kahumanu's mother brings her oil to clean her hair and rid it of lice, trying to prepare her for the groom as if marriage will solve everything. Kahumanu is miserable. She leaves and walks along the shoreline, barefoot, staring at the water, and wishing she could choose her own. Tala appears in front of her. Kahumanu begs for a way out, saying she doesn't want this forced marriage. Tala tells her there's only one road to happiness, but she can't walk it alone. Someone will come to her wherever it is and help her, whether she believes it or not. Then Tala suddenly stiffens in fear. Kahumanu asks what's wrong. Tala says the gods are terrified. Kahumanu is stunned and asks who could frighten God. Tala answers that the gods fear Kahumanu because she will one day do something that shatters that warning sinks into Kahumanu's bones like ice. Elsewhere, Kiana's people finally find Hiki safe and unharmed. They explain what happened and promise to wait until Kiana returns. Hiki is confused, Kiana, still being hunted, is struck in the head by the advisor with a rock. He stumbles, vision blurring, but he's too skilled to be caught easily. He slips into a shoreline cave, drinks water, and rinses blood from his face. That cave, we learn, belongs to Kahumanu. Kahumanu enters and finds him wounded. She tries to help, but Kiana warns her not to. If the king's men learn she aided him, they'll kill her without thinking twice. Kahumanu shrugs and says she's spent her whole life running from them anyway, so what's one more risk? She treats his wounds with quick first aid, and he starts to recover, breathing easier. She asks why he's being chased. Kiana explains everything: the massacre, the betrayal, and how he returned only to retrieve Hickey and escape. Then he notices something in her possession, an old stole. He asks what that strange object is, because it looks like nothing from their world. Kahumanu says it's a weapon left behind by Captain Jack, a foreign invader who once tried to conquer Ohio. Ohio drove him despite his advanced arms, because the people fought like their lives depended on it. But she adds, bravery still loses when numbers are overwhelming, and that lesson never disappeared. Kahumanu tells Kiana she has a boat heading to Ohio and offers to take him and his people with her. Kiana agrees immediately. It's the cleanest way out, and he trusts her more than any king right now. In the forest, one merchant wanders off to relieve himself. A royal soldier jumps him and knocks him unconscious. At the same time, Kiana and Kahumanu come upon the merchant. One merchant raises his rifle at Kiana. Kiana doesn't understand what it is and instinctively pulls his knife, shouting about the man pointing a stick at him. The merchant captain orders his man to lower the weapon before blood spills, because he can tell Kiana is the type who won't hesitate. In that instant, Kiana throws his knife and drops one of the king's soldiers closing in. Then he grabs Kahumanu and calmly moves them through the crowd like he owns the place. When he senses the hunters are getting too close, he removes his fang neck and presses it into Kahumanu's hand. He tells her to give it to his wife so his people will trust. Then he orders her to take them and leave while he stays behind to buy time and keep the chase away from them. The merchants rush back to their boats to escape before the island turns into a battle. Kahumanu reaches Kiana's crew and hands the necklace to Poi, proving Kiana sent her. Kapoi's eyes widen, but she trusts the sign. Kahumanu leads everyone toward her boat. The merchant, who was knocked out, staggers back, begging for help getting to his ship. Kahumanu agrees and brings him along, because leaving him would mean death. Kiana keeps running until he's cornered with nowhere left to hide. He turns and fights head-on. At first he drops warriors like it's effortless, but more arrive, and numbers finally win. They pin him down. The advisor approaches, eager to kill him, and finally erase this chosen one problem. Kiana makes a last shocking move. He grabs the advisor and leaps off the cliff with him. They plunge into the ocean together, crashing into the water like stone. Keely watches it happen, heart pounding. He orders 2 men to dive and bring back Kiana's body, assuming the sea will do the killing. Instead, moments later, Kiana wakes up aboard the merchant ship. The merchants pulled him from the water because earlier he saved them from the royal soldier. And in their eye, a debt is a debt. Kiana is furious and disoriented, ready to explode, but they calm him, return his weapons, and insist they're allies who don't want Maui's politics. He finally steadies himself. For a long beat, he just stands there, gripping the railing till his knuckles turn pale. The wind whips salt into his face, and the rocking of the ship reminds him he's no longer in control of anything. He scans the water behind them, desperate to spot his canoe or Kapoi's silhouette, but all he sees is endless blue. His chest tightens with a fresh fear. Did Kahumanu and his people escape, or did Kahakili's hunters catch them the moment he went into the sea? The merchants try to speak to him slowly, like you would calm a wounded animal. One of them offers him water again. Another points toward the horizon and explains, with gestures and broken words, that their ship is bound away from Maui and toward other ships. Kiana forces himself to breathe. He asks where they're sailing, and the captain tells him they're heading toward Ohio to resupply and then continue their trade route. The name Ohio hits Kiana like a drumbeat, because Ohio is one of the 4 kingdoms tied to the prophecy, and now fate is dragging him there whether he wants it or not. He remembers Tala's dark eyes, the farmers he refused to kill, the temple burning, and Kahakili smiling while claiming it was all for peace. Kiana realizes peace built on massacre isn't just silent after the screaming stop. Below deck, the merchant's world feels strange. Stacked crate, metal tools, ropes, and rifles that look like magic sticks to island eyes. Kiana's gaze keeps drifting to the gun, trying to understand how a small piece of metal can kill from far away. He also notices the bell again, hanging near the mast, and now that he's closer, he understands why it frightened his crew. It sounds like a warning from another age. He doesn't trust these outsiders, but he also can't deny they saved his life. As night falls, Kiana makes a quiet vow. He will find Kapoi. He will protect his people, and he will stop Kahakili from drowning the islands in blood. If the prophecy is real, it won't be forced by a tyrant. It will be earned the hard way. Right now, from the deck he watches Maui shrink into the distance as the ship sails, the bell faint behind them, and the horizon swallowing everything he once called home. And that's where episode 2 ends. Like I told you, this show drops 1 episode per week. So until episode 3 lands, hit the like button, subscribe, comment, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next. This recap was written, edited, and recorded by me. Stay safe. I love you all. See you soon. Goodbye.